So my fish, because I bought it from the fishmonger, has been cleaned already. So Austin is going to demonstrate to us. I'll get this out of your way.
Sure.
Let me get a plate.
So we're going to turn this into what Trish gets to buy at the store. So here we have, it's not the biggest fish I ever caught. Of course, I'll tell all my friends it was much bigger in the story. So we're going to take this fish, this trout that I caught this morning, and we're going to turn it into what you would normally see a trout at the supermarket. When you buy them, Trish, do they usually leave the head on a trout?
It depends. Some people like to buy the whole thing, and other people would like to have the tail and the head removed. And sometimes I see them, they're open and filleted like
a little
that,
less personality when it's not looking at you.
Yeah, well, that's my husband's problem. He doesn't eat anything that looks like what it was.
If it's looking back at you.
No.
Well, everything that we have at the farm looks back at us, so we're used to it by now. So we're going to take this trout, and the easiest way to prepare a trout for the next stage, which is to prepare it for cooking, is just to open the trout up and pull out all the guts, and it's a very simple process. We have a really nice fillet knife here. I actually like to use, for just a small trout like this, an even shorter knife with a stiffer blade. So we're gonna grab, Trish has a really nice a nice paring knife over here. And the reason I like to choose a shorter, stiffer bladed paring knife for a trout like this is because a long blade like that, you could actually do a lot of damage to the meat. So a shorter blade like this works good for a trout. A trout doesn't have external scales that need to be removed. Some fish have very hard scales, and you would take some time and scale the fish. Trout has...
Outside though, right?
Yeah, that's a big mess. Definitely not in Trish's nice kitchen here. So I don't even touch the skin of the trout. Occasionally I will take the skin right off depending on the recipe, but Trish has a great recipe. She said I can leave the skin on it, so that's even better.
And the skin is edible. It's a very delicate skin.
Does it crisp up nicely?
If you pan and fry it.
Oh, okay. So what we're going to do is different than that, but that's good to know. So all I've done to this trout, when I catch them, I like to bleed them so they have a quick death. I don't like, one of the reasons we raise our own animals is so we can ensure that they don't suffer. So I did bleed this trout quickly by just cutting its throat through the gills. That way it was able to die quickly. But at this point, it is still a completely whole fish. And what I'm going to do now is begin the gutting process. So let's get started here, Trish. This is a very simple way to prepare this fish. We're going to cut a hole right from the anus all the way up to the throat, open that up and pull out all of the guts. You can see I have my little paring knife. It's got a nice sharp point. We're going to take that, we're going to insert it in the back here. Then we're just going to cut gently all the way up the belly. And when you're cutting, you want to go very shallow with the tip of that knife. You don't want to stab it in and all the way, because you can wind up puncturing through the rib cage and ruining some of that nice meat in there. So you just want to very, very gently and very shallow take that knife blade up through the cavity there, and you stop right at that point. It gets pretty hard. Those fins come and they connect into a solid bone there. And you'll notice that I've opened up this cavity and I haven't punctured anything in there, and that's the goal. That's why you try to keep pretty shallow. So everything is still intact. We don't want any of that stomach opening up. It's okay if it does. You're just going to want to clean that out. And now here's the grossest part of the whole operation. You're just going to reach in there and pull everything out. So we're going to start ripping at all this stuff. And you want to, again, try to keep that all together. You're trying not to puncture or pop anything or burst anything inside that cavity. And now we have a nice clean cavity. There's none of the organs left. There is, however, this strip at the top running along the base of the spine. I also like to clean that just because it's not a pretty thing to see on your fish. So you can just take your knife again and just pop that membrane there. And then I just use my finger and scrape this out. You'll see right to clear white bone, and you'll know you've got that all cleaned. At this point, Trish is thinking, way worth it to go to Stu's.
How did you know?
So that's clean. Now the final way to get that really nice and clean is just take this over to the sink and run some water through it. So I'm going to do that right now. At this point, you can see
It's gorgeous.
we have a nice clean
Yeah,
cavity.
it is clean.
It's nice and clean. And I also made sure that there's no more organs up here by the gills. You could take this fish, you could cut the head off, you could cut the tail off. If you're eating with somebody who doesn't want that staring back at them, maybe you do that. Consider your audience. We're going to just take some time to snip off these fins because they do get in the way, and there's some sharp bones in there.
Yep.
So.
And also the skin is edible, so you don't want to have to work around the fins either.
Oh yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great point, Trish. You call those?
They're just fins.
And now you're going to be cutting through a little hard. Yep.
Yeah, kitchen shears are pretty strong.
Thanks, Trish.
You're welcome.
Trying to get a shot there. So my catching skills this morning weren't lacking, but my knife skills a little bit. At this point, we're going to hand this over to Trish, and she's going to show us how we can turn this beautiful, fresh piece of fish into a delicious meal, because I am lacking in my kitchen skills. So Trish, what do we do with this?